Hey, everybody, and welcome to An Action Filmmaking Podcast, episode 47. Today, we're talking all about the do's and don'ts of short films and how you can use that as a proof of concept to show something great, or how you can just get started and get your ideas out to the world. So, I am here, as always, with my co host, Mikey Messier. Mike, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good, Tommy. It's good to see you again. Good to be here, and I think we'll have an interesting show for everybody today.
Yes, the world of short film making. But before we get into that, what was your feedback like on last week's episode 46? We were talking about a movie I worked on called Money Plane.
Well, my buddy Laza in Australia actually got the film again. He got the movie, really enjoyed it, and he's got a birthday coming up, and he wanted to pass along that he did watch the movie. I think he watched it through one of the streaming services, directly there. So, such an exciting time, Tommy, that films can be broadcast with a couple of clicks of the remote control in any part of the world these days.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember a time when, telling someone, like really when I first started making movies about 10 years ago, uh, I remember telling people that, yeah, I made this movie and, where do you go get it? And, you had to hope that somebody was near a Walmart that maybe carried the DVD. And sometimes people would go to certain stores and, oh, it's not in my Walmart or it's not in this store. And now it's just so great that, as much as I love hard media, I'm a hard media guy. I still like to collect things like I collect VHS tapes and things like that. And there's something kind of cool and old school about actually holding a piece of content that you can pop in a machine and watch. But nostalgia aside, when it comes down to good old fashioned convenience, man, there's nothing like you said, just you could have a friend in Australia and be like, hey, mosey on over to this site here and this platform and watch my movie.
Yeah, and there's a positive and negative to everything. And like you said, the actual hard copy of a disc is one thing, and kind of like how people think about LPs. There's that nostalgia value of owning something, but at the same time, the flip side of that same coin is the convenience. And if you want something, the immediacy of not having to, sit around or go hunting through WalMarts to find it. So, but it sounds like we're getting off on another topic. Maybe we'll revisit that. The modern technology will be another episode, I think, in the future, Tommy.
Yeah, that's a good idea for down the road. Yeah, and another thing I just wanted to talk about because it's timely, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this have some kind of dog in the race or dog in the hunt, horse in the race, whatever kind of animal you have doing whatever that's connected to this topic. Um, we've got a lot of potential strikes looming. We've got the Screen Actors Guild; their contracts are up June 30th, which is rapidly approaching.
Yeah.
We have the DGA, which just softly came to terms with an agreement. That's the Directors Guild of America. And of course, everybody knows the WGA, the Writers Guild of America. They've been kind of on strike now for about a month or so. So there's a lot of questions floating around the air, and a lot of people are in a bit of a holding pattern of sorts. Myself included. For example, I had a movie that was all lined up and ready to go in June, and with these strikes looming, there's no way that anybody can really start, as taking part in all of these crucial details and elements to scheduling a movie when you can't have 4 or 5 weeks into pre-production and then a strike happens. So everybody right now is kind of just keeping their proverbial powder dry in the world of production, uh, as far as any movies that are working with the unions. So if your movie has SAG actors, if your movie is WGA, everybody's kind of playing wait and see. So I personally just wanted to come out on the show and say I just hope that an agreement can be made soon because obviously everybody needs to feel comfortable with the terms that they've agreed to go to work with, but at the same time there are a lot of lives that are affected and a lot of people just kind of waiting around for a decision to be made. So hopefully all these sides can come together quickly, Mike.
Well, actually, I voted on this topic yesterday. I did the official vote for the union that I'm in, and as John Lennon said, all we are saying is give peace a chance. And I think a lot of it, Tommy, in my opinion, is just that the technology of streaming that we just talked about, it's moving so fast that the unions and the paperwork and the lawyers, lawyers, guns, and money, as Warren Zevon used to say, it goes slower than the technology. So when you have all these streaming options and you have questions of residuals, I don't think it's nefarious, perhaps, that people are trying to keep money away from writers and actors. It's just that the technology moves faster than the paperwork, and that's at least my hopeful thought. Maybe I'm naive.
No, that's a great point. And again, we don't want to go into yet a second topic. But I think this is important to talk about. Even just to spend a few minutes on it. Basically, what's happening, if you're watching along at home, is back in the day, it was very simple. Writers and actors and directors, all these industry people would get residuals based off of VHS tapes and then later DVDs. And then the wild west of streaming platforms came along, like we just kind of talked about. These topics are kind of oddly connected in a weird way. And now that the streaming world has taken forefront, and again, this is my layman's way of kind of breaking it down. I'm not an expert. I'm not on any of the committees, but it's just not as cut and dry to track individual sales like it used to be in terms of, back in the day, it's like, okay, this title, this movie, the movie I wrote, sold 1 million copies on DVD. So I am going to get a direct percentage of that. Streaming's different. You're getting your money through advertisement. All these platforms are making money through ads. So like Mike said, I think that the technology just needs to catch up to the price of doing business and what's fair for writers and directors and actors.
Actually, the reverse. The technology moves faster than all the paperwork.
Yeah, the rules need to catch up with the speedy technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's time to jump into our topic. What's up, everybody? It's good to have you with us. Michael Whitney, what's happening? How do you feel when you're working with Mercedes Moné on set? I feel terrific, man. Mercedes is a wonderful person and a super talented performer. So I know for a fact we'll be doing a deep dive on The Collective, which is a movie that I directed starring Mercedes. That movie is going to be coming out August 4th, so right around the corner. So I would imagine that first week in August, we'll be doing a nice deep dive on The Collective, and we'll be talking all about Mercedes. So stay tuned for that, brother. But in short, she's terrific.
For those that don't know, that's the former Sasha Banks female wrestler who's achieved great things, main evented WrestleMania, among other accolades. And she is actually from New England. So she's local at heart, and she's gone on to worldwide fame.
Yes. Ariana checks in. What's up, Ariana? How you doing today? Welcome, welcome. So, Mike, let's get right into it. Short films. I feel like you're very windy over there. It sounds like you're blowing in the wind. Maybe you got to move your mouthpiece away from your mouth a little
I have
bit.
a fan going on. I'll turn it off.
No, I don't think it's the fan. I think it's just breathing on the mic.
Something I like to do.
Yeah, I know you got to breathe, but just try to maybe move the mic a little. So short films. That's what it's all about today. So anybody who's been involved in movies knows that the short film is really like the entry way to get into the business. For most, but there are many different reasons to make a short film. It's not just for beginners. So I think we're going to kind of break it all down today and go into some of the reasons why to make a short film and some of the do's and don'ts once you decide that you are going to make a short film. Now, Mike, you actually used to have a program on TV called Short Film Showcase. So I know that this is a topic that's very near and dear to you, and you're the resident expert on short films. So I'm going to play a little bit more of a secondary role in today's show and kind of turn it over to you to talk a lot about some of the experiences that you've had. But tell us a little bit about, some of your experiences with shorts and give us kind of the rundown on your thoughts on shorts. Thoughts on shorts, kid, as they say in Massachusetts.
Well, Tommy, it's we could be talking for days, but to streamline it a bit, I think for me, the first short film I made was actually titled Rejected by Reality. And this was a compilation of audition tapes I had made for reality shows that were famous at the time, the Jerry Springer Show. HBO had a reality show. And the third one was WWE Tough Enough that I kind of entered as a spoof. And when I got rejected by all three of those reality shows, I kind of look back, this was all in 1 year. I looked back at those tapes and I said, there's some type of story here. There's a connection between me auditioning for these 3 shows. And, the biggest one was that HBO actually flew me out to Los Angeles to be a finalist for their pilot episode. And I met, Jay Roach, who directed Austin Powers. He was one of the directors of this thing. RJ Cutler, who's another big name, was involved. So I figured there's something here with my audition tapes if I can somehow connect these stories together. And, I made a 25-minute rough cut at the public access station in Providence, Rhode Island. And then I was able to find a friend of a friend who was an editor. I believe his name was Chad Williamson. And he came in and did a polish, as you would say, and smoothed this thing over. And we had some animations added to it. And I had a 25-minute piece. And this was a calling card. And that's what I think that a short film, for me at least, Tommy, the best thing it can be initially is a calling card. This is what I can do. This is what I'm capable of, usually on a lower budget than a big budget movie, of course. And then you take it from there. And then in the years to come, a few years later, I had this piece titled Victorious, The Battle for Sanity, which I renamed Wrestling with Sanity. And we made a series of short films on that took about 3 years to make 3 short films. The point is, Tommy, the experience of kind of taking the ball into your own hands, I think, is the best advantage and the greatest thing that can happen. Now, as far as what you're going to do with a short film, as you said at the top of the program, the way that I see it, there's 2 basic breakdowns. There's the shorts that are self-contained. Hey, we've got a 5-page script, a 10-page script, a 20-page script, and we just want to make a short film that honors those words. Then there's the other one that you and I have both been involved in, the proof of concept. We did that with The Manor. I believe you did that with Slimebuck, where you kind of make a short film with the idea being, we're going to make this short film and hopefully there'll be some interest through producers with more money, maybe actors with name value. If we show them this proof of concept, it'll prove that we kind of know what we're doing and we need more help to make this a full feature film. There are advantages and disadvantages of both ways, Tommy, and we can get into that. But I think one thing that can be very helpful for the aspiring filmmaker is at least know what you're aiming to do. Are you making a proof of concept or are you making a self-contained short film before you even get started?
Yeah, and I think by self-contained short film, that's just another way of saying a calling card, like you said. That's your calling card concept. I think another reason to make a short film, and I actually just experienced this literally a few weeks ago. I had a producer by the name of Claudio Orefici contact me and had a concept that he wanted to put together. And he's really eager to get into the business as a producer. But, this guy's had a career. He's worked outside of the movie business for his entire life and, is an actor and recently just really wants to get into the world of producing more. So for him, it was just a learning experience. He told me, he's like, I just want to make this short film mainly just to learn every aspect of it, from, writing the script to casting the actors to putting together the whole package. So I think as much as it can be beneficial as a calling card to show what you can do, I also think it's beneficial for potentially a producer to see what it's all about and just to kind of see the various stages. Because the cool thing about a short film is, like a feature film, really, like, the same strategies are implemented when it comes down to coming up with the concept, when it comes down to, obviously, like, you need to have an interesting story. Obviously, you need to hire a crew. You need to do some kind of pre-production. You need to figure out who these characters are. What kind of clothes do they wear? It's really just like a great way to get an overall grasp of everything that goes down. And then when you're on set, although we'll get into this down the road on the show, usually a short film crew is a little bit smaller than a feature film crew, but you still get to see, like, firsthand, what is the boom mic operator doing? What is the DP doing? What is the what are the gaffer and the grips and the lighting people doing? You really do get to see, again, on a small scale, a little bit of everything, and I think that's really great. And obviously, the same goes with the post production process of a short film. You get to see what it's like to be in the editing room. You get to see what it's like to colorize and go through an audio mix. Um, but the timelines usually, hopefully, are a lot more convenient, right? Like you're not going to be working on a short film for, most short films, they shoot for a day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week tops. But you're really talking about very small kind of slivers of time. And I think that's helpful for people who are kind of just putting their toe in the water in the business. And maybe they already have a life, they have a full-time job, they have, the family, the kids, the whatever you want to call it. They don't have that time to put in, everything they got, but they still have a love for filmmaking and a passion. So the short film space is a nice way to put your toe in the water, Mike.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's always things like the 48-hour film festival, which I kind of have mixed feelings on. And as you know, I run a short film festival myself, Avalonia Festival, and we can get into that later. I would just say that everything you said makes sense, Tommy, but you know what? There's always exceptions to the rule. And, even when you're talking about the crew for this, short film that we're talking about, hypothetical one, a lot of times it's just literally a man and a camera, or a man and a friend and a camera, and sometimes it's just a person, believe it or not, with a cell phone, iPhone camera. Sometimes, and here's the thing: there's such a great variety. You could really make a short film. And we have it. You and I both, we talked off air about a project, and I'll say this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but this is maybe when you make a short film that should actually just be a feature. We know of a situation where somebody invested about, I would say, $8,000 into a short film that was really like a proof of concept for a feature film. And where I disagree with this filmmaker is they spent a pretty good chunk of money, but most of the considerations were for the locations. They had about 20 locations for this short film. And then when I looked at the feature film script of this same story, he could have just filmed the whole feature if he had just filmed for 2 or 3 days at each location instead of 1 day or half a day. The point is, sometimes it's better to go ahead and make your feature film. If you're making a short film, make sure that you're not just kind of being tentative, do it for the right reasons. And sometimes you need someone else to kind of point that out. But my point in just telling that story, Tommy, is sometimes there's a reason to go ahead and make your feature film. And if you're going to put $8,000 into a short film, in my opinion, you might as well just forge ahead and make the feature. But Tommy, I've made award-winning short films with literally no budget.
Let me stop you right there, though, Mike. And with all due respect, you can't make a feature film for $8,000. I mean, you might be able to scratch out some kind of muck that stars your buddies, but I think you'd be really hard pressed to even feed a crew for 10 days on $8,000.
Well, the point is, the 8,000 might have been half the budget, and also this was a non-union project from what I remember. The other point is that he had the locations, he had the people. If he had just filmed more, what I'm saying is, setting up each location is a big part of the budget. If you're going to have 20 different locations, why not spend more time at each location rather than moving on to the next one? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe what you're saying is, and this is one of my points on the notes. Like an animated film, right? When you make an animated film, there's something called the animative imperative. Don't do something that you could do in a real film with real actors and human beings.
Live action.
It's animated, so do something extraordinary and special. I think the same goes with a short film. It's like, do something that's unique to the short film. And what I mean by that is, and this is just like an example, there are certain stories that wouldn't work in long form. There are certain stories that are really just almost like a joke, like you're telling a joke, like a setup and a payoff.
Like an SNL skit, skit.
Yeah, if it's something like that, then that makes sense. So I think, not to jump all around, I think when choosing which kind of movie to make, whether it's a short film or not, the first thing should just be like, does this concept lend itself to a short film? And when we're talking budgets and money and things like that, I think another kind of unique aspect to a short is and we actually did this. Mike mentioned there's a film called The Manor, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But this works, guys. We're not making this shit up. Like, if you make a really strong short film, even if it's 3 or 4 minutes and it's like a trailer, you can go and take that and convince investors to give you money for something bigger. To me, that's the biggest and most important goal behind making a short film. But one of the things that we did in this short proof of concept, it was really mostly like a trailer, but for all purposes, you call it a short. We were able to even make a period portion of this short. So we were able to do flashbacks to like the 1950s and 60s, where that's something that we wouldn't have the budgetary range to do in long form. We would never be able to make an entire period piece that's 90 minutes long with the money that we had. However, if it's just a few minutes and it's like we just need, one scene, now we can start to do unique things. Now we can tell a story set in the 50s because we only have to be there for a few minutes, so to speak. So there are a lot of advantages. Same thing. I think, shout out to Sam Eilertson, good friend of mine, Sam Eilertson. He's a cinematographer, documentary filmmaker, shot the movie Vault with me. Sam's a really talented guy. And one of the early short films that he did that he showed me, he demonstrated this really great visual effects that he was able to do. A really great, visual effects, CGI, for lack of a better word. Now, that's something that Sam probably, especially at the time, I think he was in his early 20s, he probably wouldn't have been able to do an entire feature film with those kind of visual effects. That would have been a much bigger deal. However, in a short form fashion, he could really, have the grand finale of the fireworks display and fire off all of his rockets in just that little 4 or 5 minute contained short. And now people that watch it say, wow, look at this amazing visual effects work this guy can do. And again, back to the calling card. So in a short, you want to do things that you wouldn't be able to do on a feature.
Yeah, and there's so many differences between short films and longer films, but there's also a lot of similarities. And as you said, Tommy, some of the similarities are just budget, scheduling, crew considerations. And you mentioned at one point, Tommy, when you're casting a short film, here's a big question for people: are you going to make a casting call? Are you going to go on a talent hunt? Or are you just going to do what I call like fingertip casting? Call your friend, call your sister. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I think a lot of it just depends on, do you have talented friends that are, are your friends actors is a good question. If they're not, if they don't have charisma, if they don't have a screen presence, if they're tentative, if they're shy, your short film is going to suffer. And it might be worth the process of going to a website like Actors Access, which I used to cast a proof of concept recently. I had a great experience because I'm in a new state. I didn't really know anybody here. I used the Actors Access model and was able to get basically 100 audition tapes from people for no cost. So there are... Yeah, there are total advantages for going beyond your fingertips, and sometimes that's the easy way out. Just call your friend who's halfway good and just offer them the role. Another thing, Tommy, with that real quick is sometimes when actors have to earn a role, they honor it more than if you just give it to them. If you have to audition for something, you put it on a higher value than if someone just hands it to you. And that's just the human condition.
Well,
I
I
think
think that, obviously what you're talking about makes a lot of sense, but, we should probably just move it forward for the rest of the show. We should almost categorize these different shorts because it's like, there are literally micro shorts that you're talking about where it's literally just a person with their iPhone. And like you said, you call a buddy and you light it with practical lights that are around the house and you do your thing. And listen, that can be great. That can be very effective. However, the short films that I'm talking about have a little bit more of a budget. And I'm talking like a few $1,000s. Usually that's about let's just cut the bullshit out. Let's talk money. Like, what do you really need to make a short film? You're going to need a few grand to really do it right. Now that doesn't mean that any short film under a couple or a few $1,000s is going to be terrible. It just means that, when I do business, when I make a project, I like to think of things like you have to feed people.
Yep.
Usually you want to make sure that, okay, not every short film is going to be able to have an incredible payday for the actor. In fact, a lot of short films, you're not even going to be able to get paid. It's just the way it is. But you want to know that when you're going into this, it's going to cost you something. And I only say that to warn you because I think a lot of people get into a short film without realizing all the potential costs that can come with this. And then what ends up happening is they run out of money. And with the lack of money, they run out of steam to actually finish the project. And, again, we don't want to be ugly on this show or talk negatively, but there are a lot of people that I've kind of worked with and kind of seen come and go through the business that will start a project and just won't finish it. And I think sometimes when you just get really excited about what you're going to go doing and you go running into it and you don't think about things like, oh shit, I'm going to have to hire an editor eventually to cut all this up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wait, I might need original music and, maybe I don't know if I have to pay a lot of money, but I may have to give someone a couple $100 for a song or something. There's just a lot of things that people don't think about. So, one of my recommendations before you go into any short film, really create a budget. And I mean it, even if it's just like one of the iPhone short films. And it's literally just, I got my cousin coming over and I am going to light this with the lamp that's sitting on the coffee table. We're not going to do anything. It's still going to cost something. Money will be spent. So just, no matter what, no matter how small the short film, treat it like a real movie and get used to doing all of these actual practices that are common in filmmaking. Like, okay, we're going to budget this thing. Okay, we're going to schedule this thing. That's another thing. I feel like let's just talk scheduling for a second with short films. There's nothing wrong with doing the whole weekend warrior bit and saying, okay, we're going to shoot this short film, one day a week over the next 5 or 6 weeks on Saturdays with this group of people. And Mike, I know this is something that you've dealt with schedules like this, doing the kind of the weekend warrior approach. And as great as that can be, and it certainly can work, and I understand people have lives and people have schedules, it can be a fucking nightmare to stretch your production out through an extended stretch of time. So one of my don'ts for the don'ts of short filmmaking, don't stretch your movie out through some almost unrealistic schedule where, okay, guys, we're shooting 1 day a week for the next 5 weeks and we're going to string this together. I'd highly recommend, and this gets back to casting, this gets back to hiring your crew, find people that can bang this out in a few days all together. And there are literally hundreds of reasons why to do this, but we'll just highlight some of the key ones. When you're doing the whole weekend warrior bit, and it sounds like I'm being a dick when I say weekend warrior. It sounds like I'm being flippant. It sounds like I'm saying that those kind of filmmakers are less than. It's not what I mean. I understand everybody has schedules and lives and things that they got to take care of. But if you really want to do this, and by this I mean make films, maybe this is time that you put things in check and you make sacrifices in your life and you say, okay, for this 3-day stretch, I am shooting my short film and I am going to hire only the people that can come in these 3 days. And, that's where it comes down to. You might say, to be adverse to my point here, you might say, yeah, but my actor can only work on Saturdays. Get another actor.
Yeah, perfect. Here's another thing to your point, Tommy. If you're going to look at why not, here's an idea, shoot on a 3-day weekend, shoot on Memorial Day weekend or 4th of July weekend or Labor Day weekend, and if you have the people that are dedicated to 2 days for a Saturday and Sunday, it's quite possible you could get those same people to be there for a Saturday, Sunday, and a holiday Monday. And you might have to wait a couple of months for the next 3-day weekend to come along, but it'll probably give you more time if that's what you needed. So many situations are going to be different, Tommy, but we're just kind of talking in broad strokes.
Yes, it's a very vague topic that we have today. But I do want to, if we seem like we're a little clustery, there's just a lot to get into, and I want to make sure that, I want to focus. Really, I know this sounds crazy, but I want to focus more on the don'ts than the do's. And the only reason I say that is because I've done a lot of the don'ts. I've made these mistakes time and time again, and I just don't want to see you guys make them. Real quick, Kim, what's happening, Kim? How are you today? And we have Stephen E. What's up, brother? How you doing today? We're talking short films, and we hope you don't have a short attention span because there's a lot to get into.
How's my audio, Tommy? By the way, because
It sounds good. It's just I'm still, it sounds a little bit like when you make like an iPhone video outside and you can hear that wind, that.
just give me a second. I'm going to try something. I'll be right back.
Okay, guys. Well, I'll take it from here. So, guys, we talked a little bit about some of the advantages. Let's talk about some of the, potential things you want to avoid. Mike made a great point earlier about you probably don't want to spend too much money on a short film, and I do agree with that, and I'll tell you why. This is a warning. If you're looking to make money with your short film, get that idea out of your brain because short films do not make money. There is really no way to monetize it. There might be some random compendium type video programs. I've seen like a horror anthology where there's 5 shorts that make a feature. Fuck that. Okay, you're never gonna make any money with your short film, and really trying to monetize it is kind of a waste of time. So that said, to play to Mike's point, yeah, if you're gonna spend thousands and thousands of dollars and nearing that 5-figure world, when we near the 5-figure world, again, you're probably not going to make a short with like 10. You're not going to make a feature film with 10 grand. You're not. It's going to be really difficult, and people are going to hate you. Actually, if you try making a feature film with 10 grand, you're going to make a lot of enemies because your actors are going to be so poorly treated because they're not going to have any food. You're not going to have the right camera equipment and gear to really make anything that's worth a shit. So your investors are going to be pissed off because they gave you money that's going to be kind of wasted. So make it a feature for 10 grand. It's not something I would wish upon my greatest enemy. It really isn't. That said, maybe that 10 grand could quickly turn into 20 or turn into 30, or you could use it to build momentum, to raise more money, things like that. But I have seen people, it's amazing. You'd be surprised. Some people spend lots of money on short films. I know people that have spent $50,000 on a short film. And, that's an example. It's kind of funny. I'm not going to mention any names, but I had a meeting with a young filmmaker probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And we sat down and they were making a short film, and it was a really cool concept. And I remember just saying, like, hey, this is awesome, but like, I feel like your script is really good. It's really well written. And I feel like this is bigger. Like, I feel like this is like a couple weeks of hard work away from being a feature. The script was like 30 something pages. It was already like fairly long. And the person had like 75K, like something crazy. Like they had a lot of fucking money.
That's a lot of money.
And I remember just saying, like, in a very nice way, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing with all that money making a short film? You can't monetize that. You're never going to get your money back. And had that person taken that 75K, maybe raised another 25 or another 50 and wrote another 35, 40 pages, they would have had a great feature film that could have went on to do really special things. Cut to, here we are 6, 7 years ago. That person did not take my advice, and they have never made a short film. I'm sorry, they have never made a feature film in 7 years. 7 years went by. They didn't make a movie.
Did they ever finish the short at least, or no?
Before it was finished. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was with that kind of money, they definitely finished it. But my point is, and I think the person thought that it was going to be this great proof of concept. Like, people were just going to watch this. It had so much money. It would have been so high octane, so to speak, that, in this person's mind, Hollywood was just going to come a calling when they see this person's short film. And the reality is, they wasted the kind of money that you could use to buy a fucking Tesla. They could have just bought a goddamn Tesla and had a nice car and been done with it.
Well, Tommy, that brings another point is if you make a proof of concept, like, we did with the Manor, we actually had people, or more so to the point, you had people to show it to. And if you go through the process of making a proof of concept, who are you going to show your proof of concept to once it's finished? Now, you can always just put it on the internet. You can put it on YouTube. You can put it on Vimeo and so forth, social media, and maybe something that will happen. But it would be even better if people, if they go the proof of concept route, have a audience in mind. Is it a certain producer? Is it a certain uncle with money, which we all wish we had, to show it to? Tommy, you're talking about things that could go wrong. I wrote out some choke points for us, things that are possible to go wrong, right? And I have to give credit to our buddy there, Paul Heyman, was actually on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, and he talked about the choke points that buried ECW, the original ECW wrestling group, why they lost their TNN contract, and he called it the choke points. So, Tommy, I'm going to present to us the choke points of short filmmaking, which actually can carry over to feature filmmaking too.
Well, this sounds very valuable. Everybody pay attention. This is the shit that could go very wrong.
Well, okay, so the first choke point is you have an idea, but you don't write a script. And how many people, Tommy, do we know that we meet at the coffee house or we meet, at the gas station? Everybody's got an idea for a movie, but nobody takes the time to write it down. So that's choke point number one. That's just universal. The next one is you have that maybe 1% of people who have an idea, who actually go through the process of using Final Draft or another screenwriting program to write a script, fade in, colon, scene headings, characters, dialogue, the whole 9 yards. They write a script, but they never film it. So that's choke point number two. Choke point number three gets a little more advanced. You've actually gone through the process of casting. You've got a crew of some kind, a budget of some kind, big or small, whatever. And you start filming, but maybe after the first day, you stop filming. Maybe something goes wrong. An actor bails out. That happened to me. And then you don't have your lead actor, or a crew member backs out, or a location falls through. And so you started to film, but you don't finish the film. That's another choke point number three. The next one is really a painful one, Tommy, and I saw this a lot in New England. A lot of people that I worked with, I have several projects that I was in as an actor that went through this choke point, so it hits very hard to me, very personal. The project has been fully filmed. You wrote it, you cast it, you bought lunch, you got your crew, you filmed everything, and all that footage is sitting on somebody's hard drive in a basement, or somebody's computer that's no longer plugged in. Yeah. And so you've got everything filmed, but nothing's been edited, or kind of a part 4A.
Let me pause that right there. That's a very big one. That's probably, out of everything that you just said, that's probably the, most prevalent in what I've seen. I've seen a lot of people get out there, and we're also fucking eager to just grab a camera and get out there, right? And I know it's exciting. Like that's the fun part. Making the movie is the fun part. But it's really detrimental to any production, whether you're making it for $500 or whether you're making it for $5 million, to not have an exit strategy. We hear that phrase all the time. What's your exit strategy? Well, the exit strategy in any movie is cut the movie, right? Get the movie edited, put it out. And a lot of times, and I've seen this with feature films too, people blow their proverbial shorts on the actual production of the film, and they don't have any money set aside, or certainly not nearly enough money set aside for post-production. And it becomes a real quagmire when trying to finish your movie. Because then what ends up happening, we've all been there before. We get excited. We go into production. We chirp from the mountaintops. We tell all of our friends on Facebook and Instagram, and we tell all of our family members, we're working on this project and we got this movie. and your actors are exciting, and you have your shoot, and everything goes great with the shoot. And then a month goes by, 2 months go by, 3 months go by. Then people start saying, "Hey, Mike, Tom, whatever happened to that short we did? Where is that? Are we ever going to see that?" And guys, those words right there for a filmmaker, those are like crushes to your soul. Those are
They're
like
like,
body shots. Every time a friend, family member, loved one, someone you don't even fucking like. How about that? How about a fucking enemy? How about an
right.
enemy says, "Hey, where's that short film that you were working on?" Body shot right to the fucking ribs, and you can feel that. And you
I
know
was gonna
why? You know why you're feeling that pain? You know why you got that pain right now?
because you're guilty,
Because you didn't fucking prepare an exit strategy.
right?
That's why you're feeling that pain in the rib area.
Well,
Because you just wanted to willy-nilly start shooting shit, and you didn't say, "How the fuck are we gonna actually cut this together someday?"
yeah, and you're saying shots to the chest. I was thinking more like the spear in the side of Jesus on the cross, But let me just finish on the kill points, Tommy. So maybe you start to edit, but you don't finish the edit. How many times have we heard that? In fact, I enlisted you and Sam to help me out of a jam years ago because my editor had started, and the guy got paid. I got this guy a paycheck to finish a short film edit, and he did not finish the edit. So I had to bring in some reinforcements. And as the director, I was willing to sacrifice my own money to get this thing finished because it was my name on it. And then the final checkpoint, Tommy, and I'm sure that there's two more. If you finish your edit, but you don't actually show the movie anywhere, and I can give a really quick but painful example. I had a friend. She made a wonderful movie about a homeless person. It was really a great, heartwarming story and a pretty substantive, like maybe 30 minutes long. And she showed this thing once at a coffee house. She showed it once on a public access show that I hosted. And then suddenly she couldn't show the movie anymore. She couldn't send it to any festivals. I said, "What happened to that movie? You spent a year and a half on it. Everybody worked so hard. It came out great. It really did." Well, it got stuck on the hard drive, and the hard drive was in the basement. And so suddenly, and here's another choke point, Tommy. She used a song by like Mahalia Jackson or some famous jazz singer, and the song was copyrighted. She thought she could use it. She couldn't, as you mentioned briefly earlier. Music, people take it for granted. If you're making a short film, you still have to have some type of clearance, some type of rights for music. The best way to get away from that, Tommy, in my opinion, is have a friend who's a musician and have them either give, loan, or for a small stipend, sell you the rights to a local musician who's not going to give you a hard time with ASCAP and all that copyright stuff.
This is one of the sort of the head scratching shames of the world is there are just so many fucking super talented musicians out there. So many talented musicians that we'll never get a chance to hear on the radio or listen to on Spotify. Because there's just such an abundance of so much musical talent out there. And these people are dying to get their music seen and heard, I should say. You can't really see music, but you can hear it, goddammit. So, yeah, go out to the world of all these terrific musicians and, offer them something. Say, you'd be surprised, guys. Like, I've gotten some really good songs, good music from, like, musicians that actually have record labels. And I've just wrote them like a very, nice, concise email saying that I'm a big fan of your music. I really love this particular song. I think it would go great in this particular scene. You send them a version of that particular scene and you say, "Hey, listen, I don't have a lot of money. It's a small budget. I can offer $200 to pay for this song. That's all I can do." More often than not, if you're not talking to fucking Aerosmith or, name that, obviously, like any band that, we probably listen to on a regular basis ain't going to be doing shit for $200. But there are a lot of really talented people out there that are going to add value to your short. So engage people. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, and Tommy,
I want to go ahead, Mike, and then we'll get into some of these.
If people are wondering, how do I reach out to a local musician? Any town, any city you live in, you pick up a local newspaper, go online, and you can find that there's tons of bars. Even in 2023, there's still live music with actual bands that are still playing originals and so forth. So it can be done.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people, if you're like me and you're agoraphobic and really don't like to leave the house very often, you don't even need to go to a bar. It's like, all of these social media platforms, for all the shit we talk about them, for all the negativity that they're, that's besmirched upon them, uh, you know, it's great. It's effective. I mean, you could probably find, like, whatever state you live in. You could probably uh, just look up music in Rhode Island. We're in Rhode Island, so music in Rhode Island, and you're going to find so many different talented people, different talented genres. You got to hunt a little bit. Let's see what some of these comments have to say.
Sure.
Steven says, "Use the short as a pitch." Absolutely, that
Yeah,
is
it's proof of concept.
to me,
Yeah.
that's the number one reason to do it. I know someone's short that's sitting on a hard drive. It's a shame, man, because here's the thing about shorts sitting on hard drives. I mean, I don't even want to go into this, a whole nother topic, but hard drives to me, they're you never know what the fuck can happen, guys. I've had so many hard drive disasters. Hard drives, if it's a piece of electronics, man. Like, if it sits there long enough, you might plug that shit in one day and it just ain't gonna work.
Right.
And now you're into like a whole different world of trying to restore data and all this other bullshit. It's going to cost you tons of money. It's not a good thing. Andres, what's up, brother? Always with the A+ emoji work. We appreciate that, brother. And also, Andres, thank you for sharing our show every week. That means a lot to us, man.
Andres actually bought my book and wrote a nice review on Amazon. So I've actually written another book, Tommy, Art and War of Directing Student, Low, and No Budget Movies.
Oh, that's great. Let's
a primer for creating and participating in independent film. You gotta let me read the subtitle.
Our whole audience.
A primer for creating and participating in independent films, television, web series. Mike Messier. And look, there's even a picture on the back, Tommy.
We can shill at the end of the show, buddy.
Well, Andres came up. He's such a good shiller. He helped. Here we go, Debbie.
I had a small role in that film. Debbie Gagnon says, I had a small role in that film, and yes, it was very good. Only so time, lots of work, and great talent. It's a shame that you guys didn't get to see that more. I know that experience, Deborah. Deborah says, I've gotten music from my nephew's band, and it was perfect. Also, my son composes, plays original music, which I've also used. Hey, listen, there's so much talent, and Deborah just told us, why not incorporate some of the talented family members that you may have? If they're not going to help you out, who will? Miss Ash, what's happening, Miss Ash? Looks like a bestseller to me.
Oh,
Looks
thanks,
like,
Miss Ash.
Don't say that, Miss Ash. Now you're going to have to. Mike's going to be expecting another purchase.
5-star review from Miss Ash.
Oh boy.
Well, Tommy, Debbie Gagnon, one of our viewers, is a great headshot photographer, and that's another thing, Tommy. People can kind of trade talents. Sometimes people are wondering, well, how am I going to pay for all these crew members and actors? Sometimes, like I think in the past, Debbie and I did bartering, for her headshot photography, for some acting coaching. So it's quite possible to use your skills and talents in lieu of cash. That's very specific to people's individual cases.
Listen, the bottom line is this: if you want to make a short film, you got to figure out a way to compensate your talent one way or another. And yes, there are going to be some situations, and we've heard this a lot, but here's the thing, guys. On this show, On And Action, I'm not really trying to talk to I'm not trying to speak to the ham and eggers. And what I mean by that is, yeah, we could all go make a short film on our phone, and we could hire our neighbor, we could hire the guy down the street, we could call my uncle up and he could come in. It's probably not going to be a great short film. We're talking about people who really want to be professionals in this business and really want to do this, not as a hobby, but to pay your rent, to buy your food, to make a living. So that's why, I'm trying to segue this a little bit deeper into if you really want to make a short film, even as a proof of concept, be ready to spend a little bit of money. You're going to get better people for it. Like the actor that you pay $200 to for the day to come into is going to be so much fucking better than your neighbor down the street, than your friend from high school. Pay the money.
And here's another cost that people don't think about, Tommy. Once you've say you've gone through all the choke points that we just discussed, right? And you actually have your finished movie. It's not stuck on a hard drive. You can send it to people. You can show it. Film festivals are not free. 95 to 99% of them have an entry fee. Some of them, like the festival that I run, they're pretty modest entry fees, $20 or less. But if you're going to enter Tribeca, Tommy, even Tribeca early entry fee, $45. Sundance, you're looking at $65 and above for an entry fee. Tommy, a lot of people get confused. They think an entry fee guarantees that their movie is going to be accepted. It most certainly does not. And typically, when you're entering something like Sundance, Tribeca, or a con, you're basically funding somebody else's movie playing at that festival.
Here's the deal, guys. I gotta be honest with you. Let me stop you right there, Mike. Unless you have something really fucking special that you play and it blows everyone's fucking minds to the point where after they watch your short, their fucking ears are bleeding.
Right.
Take that $65 that you were gonna go give to Sundance to enter, and go buy a nice meal with it instead. Take a friend out to get some dessert, because you're wasting your fucking money. You ain't gonna get in.
Yeah, and here's to cut to the chase with film festivals, because we could do a whole other show on this, Tommy, once again. But for me, what I've finally discovered after 10, 15 years of entering film festivals, running a festival myself since 2017, I finally figured out, Tommy, that the best festivals to enter are the ones that if I get accepted, I am willing to drive myself to that festival, get a hotel, get an Airbnb for 2 or 3 days at my own cost, because they're not going to pay for it. And they will give you a festival pass, which means if your festival gets accepted, they typically give you a free pass for the whole festival. So if you think that if, like, for instance, I entered Fort Myers Beach Film Festival, got something into that, I was willing to drive down 3 or 4 hours, get an Airbnb, get the festival pass, and have a really good time. I did the same thing for a festival in San Angelo, Texas last summer, Tommy. We did a show when I was there. I was willing to put the time and the effort to get there just to see what it was like and meet people. But if you are going to enter a lot of festivals, if you're going to spend a lot of money entering a lot of festivals, are you really going to go if your film gets in? You don't have to. You can have your film there and not be there yourself. But what would really be the benefit of that? So there's a whole other topic on that.
For sure, and I think that's a great point. We're having a lot of discoveries today. I think we
Oh,
came
boy.
up with a couple of nice topics for down the road. I feel like I think a lot of people might be interested in an entire episode dedicated just to film festivals and navigating that space and where to put your movie and what to do with it. So that's a great idea for down the road. Miss Ash is laughing. I think she's feeling now maybe somewhat obligated to buy this ridiculous book of yours. No, I'm just kidding.
This award-winning book, Tom?
Okay, good Lord. Deborah says barter. And I love the old barter system. Hey, there's nothing wrong with saying to a fellow actor, hey, tell you what, I'll put you in this movie. You put me in the next project you do. One hand washes the other. Natalia Chimenez. Am I saying that right?
Brazil.
I hope I'm saying that right. Hey, Tom, I'm your big fan from Brazil. Well, what's up?
Nice.
How you doing? It's nice.
That's really nice.
Nice to be chatting with you. What time is it in Brazil right now? Are you all on the same time zone? That's what I'm wondering. I don't know. We maybe Natalia can fill us in on that.
She might be next Tuesday for all we know. Interesting.
It could be a while from now. So basically, I think the big thing that we can recap with all these choke points is you gotta finish, guys. If you're gonna start something like a short film, you must finish. Because again, reputation's everything. Nobody likes people that are squawking about shit that they're gonna go do and it never gets done. So my thing is this, and I'm dealing with this right now, guys. I literally I directed a short film, was hired to do this. I don't do a lot of short films, but guys, and bills got to get paid. So that's a word to all you out there. You get a little budget together, you want a director to make your short film really special. Yeah, you can call me up. I'll direct your short film. It's going to cost you, but it could happen. So I'm in it right now. And I had to put this thing together. And the key was, and Claudio and I went over this, it was about time frame. It was about getting this thing shot and edited and out to the world in a really, really timely manner. So just to give you a little idea, I shot this short a few weeks ago, maybe 5-6 weeks ago, in May, or it might have been late April. And here we are in June, and we've already cut it. It's cut together. We've got a couple of final notes, and all we've got to do now is colorize it and finish the audio mix. And that wasn't an accident. It's because we methodically planned this out. We knew, before we even started shooting, like, okay, we're gonna shoot this week, we're gonna edit this week through this week, and then we're gonna get it out there. So, um, you know, I guess the key is just have a full, fleshed out plan, and don't be just worried about how quickly you're gonna play around with the cameras and the actors on set. You got to think about all of the housekeeping that comes into making an actual production.
And Tommy, there's that old 5 P's: prior, prevention, prevents, poor performance. You ever heard that one?
I have. I've actually heard piss poor.
Oh, okay. So there's 6 P's.
Yeah, you add a piss into that just to give
Well,
the
Tommy, it's such a huge topic, and like we said, we can only cover in broad strokes. We don't have every example of every short film ever made. I will say this on a positive side. I've had mixed results with the proof of concept stuff, but I recently saw a feature film, Dad and Stepdad, very funny independent feature film, and apparently 3 years prior to when they finished the feature, they had made a short film proof of concept for
Sure.
Dad and Stepdad. I started a film festival, Tommy, as you know, Avalonia Festival. I think you were one of the first people I talked about this before I made it. It's going on its 8th season now. The way that I do things are a little bit different. I have different entry fees, depending, of course, if you enter early or late. But in addition, I also break it down by genre. So, for instance, I have comedy and dark comedy genre. My point with the film festivals, buddy, is they're not a guarantee either. You could win an award in a film festival. It's not going to put money in your pocket. But the other thing for getting your name out there, there's so many online stuff, Rumble, Vimeo, YouTube, of course, Amazon Prime. If you just want to get your stuff out there and get the experience, you can get your stuff online for free, and you have to hustle it to get people to watch it. But 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, none of this stuff existed. And technology is our friend if you use it the right way.
Absolutely, Mike. And, listen, this can happen. Like we said, it is something that I've actually done myself, and again, we've done a whole episode on The Manor, but it was a long time ago, so I'll briefly recap. But basically, a couple of gentlemen, Two Cousins Productions, Glenn and Matt, they kind of came to us and just said, "Look, we really want to make this film. We don't know where to begin. This isn't, what we do. We have day jobs, but we've always wanted to be filmmakers." And these are guys that are, I don't want to say older guys, but they were certainly not kids. They were full-grown men that had families and wives and everything else. And we basically, I kind of just said, like, well, guys, you need this proof of concept. You need to make a little bit of a sizzle reel, a short film that shows that you have a story here. And what we did was these guys raised, I want to say, in the neighborhood of around $4,000 or $5,000 to make this. So again, we're not talking, we ain't talking chicken feed. To me, $4,000 or $5,000 is a lot of money. But they took that $4,000 or $5,000, and here's what we did. I treated this little tiny short film that we shot in one day like it was a massive production. I made sure I cast it like a massive production. I had auditions. I had a costumer. I had a production designer. I had all the things that a major movie would have, just on a very condensed, curtailed scale. And what we did was we shot this short. I had a post-production schedule. I had it laid out so that we knew that on such and such a date, this would be done. And do you know why we had to do that? Well, because we knew we wanted to take this, and we basically shot this 5-minute piece. And then we played this 5-minute piece in front of a room full of potential friends, family, business people, anybody that these Two Cousin Productions gentlemen could get together. We played them this short film, and then cut to probably a few months later. And I'm not saying it was just because of the short film, but this short film certainly was the spark that led to the flame that led to the fire. We raised almost $100,000 and made this feature film based off of this 5-minute short. So, guys, this really can happen. This didn't happen in Hollywood. This didn't happen in New York City. This happened right in fucking Warwick, Rhode Island. Okay, we were able to raise almost $100,000 primarily based off of getting that momentum rolling with that short. And you know why? And I don't want to pat myself and Mike on the back because Mike was involved, but we treated it like a fucking feature film. We treated it like it really mattered. And when people saw that, when the uncles and the aunts of the two cousins and the cousins and the friends and the family, when they saw this short film and they saw that it looked like a real movie, like holy shit, yeah, it was only 5 minutes, but it looks like a fucking movie. Well, it was really easy for those people to take their checkbooks out and write checks for $500, for $1,000, for $1,500, and you stack enough of those checks together, before you know it, you're at 100 grand. So it's possible.
And there's a couple of extra lessons on that, Tommy. You know, the location was so fantastic. The location was actually down in Wakefield, Rhode Island. It was a bed and breakfast by this wonderful couple. And here's to the point, because the turnaround from shooting the proof of concept short for the manor was basically less than a year before we got to shoot the feature there, the same location was available, which I think was a huge factor, because that location, I don't think it's available anymore. It was like, you got to strike while that iron is hot. And, also to that point, we should say a special thanks to the Funny for Friends. It's called Funny and Friends.
They're great, but we don't need to talk about them today.
But they helped with the fundraiser.
But we didn't play the short for them. So listen, guys, Mike just made a great point that I want to jump on. What I want to illustrate here is we did have a really great location. That was part of why it looked like a real deal movie. Try to set your short films in spaces that look special, because you really only have a few minutes to grab someone's attention. So again, wherever you live, I'm sure there's a lot of unique and incredible, beautiful locations, wonderful landscapes, really unique buildings. Be thinking about that stuff when you're prepping for your short film. What can you do that's going to really attract someone and draw their attention and make it look big? We use this term all the time, production value, right? You hear that all the time. Maybe, if you can shoot your short film in a castle, if you can find yourself a castle, maybe you get one for free. Maybe there's some museum that will let you shoot at a castle, whatever it is. Suddenly this thing looks huge, and it's like, I've just seen so many short films that are shot and again, this is me thinking back to like my college days. You've seen so many short films shot in some shitty apartment that's clearly some kid's like first apartment. And it just, I'm grossed out. I don't want to see it. So it's like, try a little harder to find these places, because you'd be surprised. Like, sometimes the key to filmmaking in general, and this certainly goes with short filmmaking, but you really don't know until you ask, and you have nothing to lose by asking a question. So when it comes down to locations and things like that, don't be afraid to be the squeaky wheel and kind of say, hey, I'm making this movie. Is it okay if we shoot here? And the nice thing is, since it's a short film, you're only looking at like 1 day, 2 days. It's usually a pretty easy ask. So just go big when you're making your short film, really turn some heads.
And Tommy, you know what? Even with short films, I've been able to get product placement. I've been able to get free catering. If I plug the restaurant in even a short film, Tommy, I did that with a 1 email close to Cellos, and for the Thanksgiving short film, they catered the short film in exchange for basically having a little bit of a advertisement in the short film. So there are so many things that are possible if you try. That we're just trying to encourage people to not get stuck on the choke points. If you start, finish, and if you're thinking about starting, go ahead and start. And here's the downside, Tommy, for not finishing. If you, the hypothetical you, can't finish a short film, what do you think the chances are that people are going to believe in you when you want to make a feature film? And Tommy, I've had friends that are like that. They don't finish their 7-minute short film. Then they call me up a week later and they want to start another 7-minute short film. Or then they say, well, that short film wasn't any good anyway. I'm going to do this feature film. Why should anyone believe you if you filmed it if you filmed it, finish it. If you edited it, show it. And it is a sore spot for me, Tommy, because I feel like some of my best acting was in short films that never got finished. So I'm still upset about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Mike, where it's almost like, and I know what you mean. You see some people that haven't finished one project and they're already jumping on to the next project. It's almost like when someone owes you money
Right.
and then you see them walking around with like a new pair of sneakers on or something, and you're like, "What the fuck? I thought you were broke. You just spent $300 on sneakers. Where's my fucking money?" So it's just one of those things where try to finish, try not to be distracted. And here's the thing, guys, and I mean this. And this is our our cheesy moment of the show. We try to
Oh
have
boy.
fun. But I saw something that was kind of motivating, and it's true. This stuff's not easy. It's really hard. And there's going to be a lot of moments when you're like, I want to quit. Like, I'm going to stop. Like, I can't do this. And the reality is, most people do quit. And most people do just stop because it's not fucking easy. And the reality is, that's why most people don't succeed. So be the person who says, yeah, this sucks. Yeah, this is fucking hard. Yes, I've sacrificed a lot of personal free time and a lot of fun and maybe even a lot of friends over this bullshit. But you got to keep going and you got to finish, because the reality is the majority of people who set out to do something like this don't cross the finish line. And it's an accomplishment in itself just to have something from start to finish, stamp your fucking name on it. And guess what? It's going to get better every time you do it. So I stress to everyone as we close out this show, no matter how difficult it's getting, don't give up. Just keep pushing and try to stick to those goals. Do it in a concise manner. Treat this like it's a real fucking job. If you want to use it as a proof of concept to prove that you can be a filmmaker, and you should treat it like it's really the most important thing on the planet to you. And if you use that kind of mindset and you use that kind of work ethic, you're never going to be disappointed with what you get, and it's always going to show up on the screen.
Great point, Tommy. And it just we could go on. We could literally talk for days about this. And just a friend of mine spent $8,000 on a short film proof of concept. He didn't finish, and the excuse was the director didn't have the right close-ups. We only had it establishing in medium close-ups. And I'm just thinking, man, you kind of owe it to the people that acted in it and the crew, even if the film doesn't come out great. Just show it to the people that worked on it, because like I said before, and like you said, you got to finish in order to move on to something bigger. And how are you going to get anywhere if you don't finish those baby steps or those medium-sized steps? But Tommy, this has been a great topic. Like I said, man, I think we came up with 3 or 4 more subtopics for future episodes.
We did. Film festivals we talked about.
I started to write them down. We had 2 at the beginning. Technology
and how that's kind of changing. Yeah, there's definitely a lot that we're going to be getting into. Next week's topic is kind of a fun one. Again, I just started. I'm writing a lot lately.
Good.
It's kind of writing season. One of the things that we're going through right now with this potential strike looming is, okay, well, shit. If I can't make movies for a month, 2 months, 3 months, now no one get too scared. Let me just say this for all of you people watching this: the longest SAG strike in the history of SAG was less than 90 days. So really, if this strike comes, if the end of the month comes along and SAG isn't able to come to terms and they go on strike, it's going to suck, but it's not going to be the end of the world. The reality is, eventually the two sides will come to terms and shake hands, and we'll be back making movies. But that still leaves me with the question, well, what the fuck am I going to do with myself for the next couple, 2-3 months? Now, granted, I've got a project or 2 that I can edit, and there are some things that I can be poking around the editing room to finish. But really what I'm going to do is I'm hell-bent on just spending all that downtime on creating and stockpiling concepts for when the lights turn back on again and we can go back to work. We'll already be ready to rock. And listen, this is a whole different conversation for another day. But just because the actors are striking doesn't mean that, you still can't be maneuvering to get your project. Like all these platforms, all these different producers that are looking for content, they're still eagerly out there awaiting, because as much as a strike sucks, everybody knows that strikes come and strikes go. So eventually we're going to go back to work. So anybody out there that's in the same boat as me, I recommend if there is a strike, don't get frustrated, don't get discouraged. Use that time to just fucking create. Like that's when you should be writing and just getting better at what it is you do. If you're an actor, that's when you should be, looking for theater work. You should be just trying to find ways to keep your craft sharp. That's my little bit of advice for anybody who's going through the same thing that I'm going through right now.
Hey, Tommy, I would cross-reference our episode, the Spring Training for Actors episode. That was, I think, one of our earlier episodes, maybe episode 3 or 9.
Yeah, that
like
was early. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, we did have things, and I think one of the lessons was like, hey, you've always talked about learning how to play the piano or the guitar. And if there's an actor's strike or a writer's strike, well, now you can learn to play the piano. You got time to do that or whatever.
Find some time and use that time productively. Let's check in with some of our folks here. Ariana says exactly, choose courage over comfort. And like Roosevelt so wisely said, be the man in the arena. Hell yeah, we love that. The man in the arena is very inspiring stuff. Kim says, very motivating topic. Thank you, Kim. We appreciate that. Kim has actually been involved in, wasn't really a short film, but it was we did make a music video, which is sort of, when you're making a music video, it's almost like making a short film. So we did kind of work together on something like that. Deborah says, glad to have caught you live. Good topic. Thank you, Deborah.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you for being an active participant today on the show. Next week, again, I've been writing a lot. So Mike and I decided, you know what we're going to do next week? I get this question all the time. And to be honest with you, and I might sound cocky when I say this, but I should be charging for next week's episode because that's how important it is, the stuff that we're going to give you, the nuggets of knowledge. Next week is all about the first draft. Writing the first draft of your script. Where the fuck do I even begin? How do I start? I'm staring at a blank page. What do I do? And that's kind of one of the more overwhelming feelings. We have done an episode in the past on just writing, but that was kind of a full from start to finish. Next week, we're just going to talk about, okay, you've got an idea. What do I do? Where do I begin? Because to be honest with you, man, I get asked almost, I don't want to say on a daily basis. That's probably being a little dramatic, but probably 2-3 times a week, I'll get a DM or an inbox, or someone will see me at a coffee shop and ask me, I got this idea for a script. How do I write it? And you almost want to be like, oh, bless your heart. like I'm just right now in line at Dunkin' Donuts going to be able to give you the fucking secret to writing, like right here and now. It's not going to happen that easy, but next week we're going to talk about it on the show. So anybody who's really just getting into the writing world, tune in next week and we'll tell you kind of where to begin. And also, I want to thank everybody who's shared our program, who's made very adorable Instagram stories like Andres, like Ariana. Thank you so much.
Stephen E. has helped us out a lot.
Always making some kind of really cool promo. Guys, the more that y'all kind of interact with the show and get the word out there, we're really slowly seeing this thing grow. Every week we get a few more listeners and watchers. So that all starts with you guys, and we really appreciate it. So word of mouth is big. Tell all your friends about the show that might be interested, might be in the business. And also a little bit of a pat on the back. I'm very proud of myself, guys.
What happened, buddy?
Last week, I got over 1,500 subscribers on my YouTube channel.
Great.
Not only that, but I also got over 700,000 total views on all of my YouTube content. So
nice.
We're chipping away and we're marching our way towards, my goal is to get 1 million views on my YouTube channel by the end of the summer. That's my goal.
Yeah, you'll get there. And I think all those, you're doing stuff on Instagram, Facebook. Are you a TikTok guy as well, Tommy, or no TikTok for you?
I dabbled in TikTok for a few weeks, and maybe I'll go back to it. But to be honest with you, it just became a little overwhelming for me to manage my Instagram content, Facebook content, Twitter, and then I had this whole nother TikTok world to deal with in my YouTube videos. So as much as like all those different platforms, you think like, oh, can't you just post the same video on all platforms? Not really. It's kind of funny. There are certain videos that are more appropriate for like a TikTok space that might not work on Facebook, that might not work on YouTube. So it's like, you really do need to kind of tailor make the content to the platform. So for now, TikTok has just been taking a little bit of a backseat. But
I have apprehensions about TikTok because of the spyware rumors and facts. So, but I was just curious about you in your regard. But you were very active on Instagram, Facebook. You're very active. I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram to a lesser point. We still have to have our social media gathering of the knowledge between you and me, just to each of us has skill sets to teach the other, I think. And I think you're much better at Instagram. But anyway, I think this has been a fun show. I hope people got something out of it. Tom DiNucci YouTube channel has all the backlog episodes. This was episode 47. We're getting close to 50. That's very exciting, Tommy. And I think we've only missed 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks in the history of our show. It's usually Eastern time, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Sometimes we have to alternate that. My YouTube presence is one Mike Messier for Mike's Instant Movie Reviews, Messier Mantras on One Man and a Camera Films, and for the UFC and wrestling fans, One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan. And Tom, this has been a really good episode, and I'm very happy to have spent this hour and change with you today, buddy.
yes, you too, Mike. And really, before we go, I just wanted to say, let's see a couple last comments here. Stephen, he says, I thought last night they voted for the strike. Well, they didn't vote for the strike last night. They voted just for strike authorization. So that just basically is another card they can play that says, hey, look, if you guys mess with us, we have the authorization to strike our members. And they use that that exact kind of nervous voice. Laza says, good day, all greetings from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. What's up, brother?
And you missed your birthday wish early on the show. You have to watch the whole show again, Plaza.
Yeah,
We wish you happy
tell
birthday.
the kangaroos we said hello. Stephen E says, just went to a sketch comedy show Sunday, inspired me. Man, I think that there's a lot of brilliant, unique concepts that come out in sketch comedy. I've always wanted to do a sketch comedy show. My birthday is Monday, June 12th. Well, I'll tell you what, brother, on the 13th, which will be a day late and a dollar short, we'll be giving you a special and action birthday shout out. I'm sorry that you're temporarily in Facebook jail. I will send you a cake with a digital crowbar or file that you can bust your ass out of Facebook jail. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for now. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week on the And Action Filmmaking Podcast. Thanks, guys.